Shalom, good evening, good morning, good afternoon. So thrilled to be here. My name is Dr. Tova Goldfein. This is TMS Roundtable Live. Rose, I wanted to say good morning. You hear me? We're having a little trouble with Rose in Australia, but in the meantime, I'm going to introduce our guest. It's Matt Embry, who I've been tuting all week about. Matt, as far as I'm concerned, had MS and doesn't have it anymore. I think his body is balanced. And he's written a movie. He's directed and starred in a movie about MS. And I think I want to say this from my heart. I mean, most people know that my own mother had MS, and it's a story. But I think what's important, what I want to say before, Matt, you start talking, is that we're not here to bash medicine. Medicine has a place, but the dysfunction and the imbalance of what's medicine's doing to people, and maybe the power that some of the people give to the doctors, is what's making us a sick society. Welcome, Matt. Nice to meet you.
Yeah, thank you. And thank you for doing this show and bringing more awareness to the cause.
Ken. So talk a little bit about that. We're not here to bash pharmaceutical companies or medicine. We're here to help people be responsible for healing, since doctors have a job, and it's not always about healing. It's about fixing or diagnosing, but not always about healing.
Right. I mean, I think one thing that maybe frustrates me when we talk about, well-being and the medical, say, world or ecosystem, is there's such a polarization between, say, mainstream media or mainstream healthcare and alternative. And one thing for me is that I really get labeled, say, anti-pharma.
Right.
That's one thing that I've had to deal with, and I really try to correct that. And I say, look, I mean, I understand that, pharmacological treatments and what modern medicine brings to the table can be really, really beneficial to people. But for me, the pharmacological or big pharma approach to multiple sclerosis is something that I haven't gone down that road. And
Right.
and if there was a drug that had no side effects, that 100% stopped multiple sclerosis, I would take it.
You said that. You said that in the movie. In fact, when I watched the movie, when I saw that letter from the pharmaceutical company, from the MS Society, I sort of took the sense of like, wait, should Matt wear a bulletproof vest when he's out walking?
Right.
Like, I got a little bit like, because you get kind of scared about the world. Like, you don't know where people go when they're angry, or when through their not answering, through their silence. You see movies about the mafia, and I don't know if you felt scared when I know you were concerned, but tell me a little bit about how you felt about when you.
I mean, I think, again, mainstream media does present this story of, how horrible or evil the big pharma can be. And I've had, numerous people write me and warn me, and all that type of thing. But I really, I really try not to go down those roads.
Good.
I think that it could be very sensationalistic.
Right.
And,
Right.
It grabs headlines and Twitter and things like that.
It's drama.
Yeah.
And so let's go back a bit. We're about balance. We're going to agree. We're about balance here. There's importance in medicine. There's importance in medication. There's, importance in health. There's importance in self-healing. There's importance in nutrition. I really believe in balance. So let's go back to some of the viewers that didn't see the movie or didn't see the trailer. Tell us about how this all started, Matt, for you and your family.
Sure. I mean, going way back, I was diagnosed over 25 years ago now. And my dad, he's a research geologist, and he went to work and with his research skills and applied that to MS back then for me. And what he came out with after all his research was nutritional strategies and lifestyle changes for me to, keep my MS in control. So it was, again, science-based strategies that I implemented.
Right.
And, I got better. And, years passed, and, my parents started a charity, and, I went off and had a life. I got married, I had children.
Yeah.
And I kind of had it on the back burner.
One second, Matt. Rose,
Sure.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you, Tova, but I can't link in.
Oh, okay.
So yeah. And I can hear Matt as well.
Okay.
So, yeah.
So, but feel free to write on the feed if you want to respond that way.
Okay. No, it's fine.
Okay.
Can I just sort of thank Matt for coming on, and from a nursing perspective, it was just wonderful watching that movie, and it was so sad.
Yeah.
And it broke my heart for all the times that I've set up a home for people, and to think that there's no way that your story can't be exposed everywhere so that patients can see that there's hope.
Mm-hmm.
And thank you for putting up that program, that MS Hope.
Right.
So,
right.
Yeah.
Right. Wonderful. Rose, like I said, Rose and I are, clinicians. Rose is a nurse and a midwife and a psychotherapist, and I'm a chiropractor and a rehab specialist and a mind body, solution doctor. And, that's our mission. And we're on this Be Live this is our 31st show. And 3 times maybe something has happened with Rose not being able to beam up and all. So
Right.
I hate to be slaves to the internet, but we kind of are. Anyway, so Rose will be coming back and forth when she can. And maybe you need to come to Israel and Australia. We can hire you to come direct us and help us figure out, and we can, reinvent our wheel. Anyway.
I love both places.
Oh, wow. Well, anyway, so Matt, go ahead. So you were not, so what I'm going to interrupt because that's what Israelis do. So when your dad said nutrition, why just nutrition? I mean, we do know that the myelin sheath is made of lipids and protein. So was he thinking more like, let's strengthen the myelin?
Well, I mean, I think it's a multifactorial approach. And again, he would be the best person to talk to on that. I mean, he's really the science part of it.
We're going to have him on our show also, and Mom.
Yeah. And for me, he was thinking, he obviously had numerous reasons why. And then for me, it was just about getting to work. And I talk about this publicly a lot. It's discipline, right? And that's something I've been very fortunate to be able to have as a human being. And that's one of my messages where, once you make these choices, it's how do you implement it?
Yeah. Yeah. And so the discipline, the commitment, we sometimes call it the will, the will of the human being to stay on a road and not turn. Like there were so many things in your movie that could have made you go this way or that way. And you were just like, okay, I'm on a mission here. And that's determination. That's discipline. And it's an unbelievable quality, and it can be learned. It can be learned. If someone doesn't have it, it can be learned. I always say, do you get up and brush your teeth every day? We don't forget it. We just do it. That's discipline. That's a habit. So continue. So the discipline of eating correctly, and then you saw yourself progressing.
Yeah, I mean, I got better, and so then, and I continued to be better. I was able to get myself into a situation where, in all honesty, I hardly ever even thought of it.
Wow.
Like I went on with my life.
Wow. Well,
and then it wasn't until my late 30s or later 30s that I had something really deep inside me want to get the information. There's a few things that happened very serendipitously, but then suddenly I just knew that I had to do this. And then once I'm a fairly aggressive person. I'm trying to stop that in my 40s now. But once I put that thought into the world, I'm going to do this. I went after it.
All right. Well, that's your discipline and determination. That's the will you use to keep your body from regressing.
Mm-hmm.
So it's my point is to our listeners that you're not special. You're special, but you're a human being that had a goal, and so anyone
Right.
can do it. Anyone can do that. I mean, so this is the point I want to make to the layman. And that's what you said. You went up there and you were talking to hundreds of people that were like, let's do this.
Mm-hmm.
And you got the cells. Did you get this? Oh, you got the surgery on your neck. So you did what you needed to do. And some of the people got this stem cell.
There's stem cell treatments you can do. Yeah. There's multiple kinds with that, but then there are options. And I think need to be explored and discussed. And
Right. So you don't get any symptoms. You don't get any kind of messages from your body that say, I need attention. I need something. I need you to give me a hug or whatever the body does.
I don't know. I mean, I don't have any MS symptoms, but I think we all have, like, our bodies are going to tell us when they need to rest or exercise. Like, and people talk about, is fatigue, is that MS? Well, I'm 44 years old. Like, I've got 2 children. I have a full-time job. Isn't that fatigue not normal for people at certain parts of their life? I mean, I don't know. But then I know what to do when these things come in, how to adjust, right? And it's about, I really see my body as a lab sometimes.
Wow.
And just, I've really learned how to, I wake up in the morning or, midday, I know if I've eaten something I shouldn't have. I know if I need to rest. I know if I need to meditate. Like, I know if I need to pray. Like, I know, right? And then It's about implementing and listening to that voice saying, do this. Okay.
Right.
And then,
Right.
And it was really interesting, and I've shared this story very, maybe this could be the second time I've ever publicly talked about it, but a month before my diagnosis, I had a voice in me tell me, you need to change your diet.
At age 19.
And I distinctly remember it. I distinctly remember this voice.
What were you eating at age 19?
Mm-hmm.
What were you eating at age 19?
Oh,
I want to hear.
Like, you name it, like Coca-Cola, a lot of Coca-Cola products, like Pepsi, a lot of fast food, microwave dinners, just terrible. Not terrible. I don't want to say terrible, but I ate that style of food, right? And a lot of it, and McDonald's, you name it, like not a good situation, like just the typical Western, diet for most people. High fat, high milk.
Did you? Oh, a lot of dairy. Yeah. Did you recall any specific stress in your life at the time when you were diagnosed?
There were some relationship issues at that time, and then stressors through my childhood that existed. So those types of things. Again, as you walk your life back, you realize that maybe the impacts things had on you.
Right, exactly. I have to say that one gentleman that I was speaking to on Facebook said, "Oh yeah, I have MS, and it's because I'm emotional." I said, "Are you saying that something is wrong with you being emotional?" I'm emotional. I think that all of us are emotional, and when we know that, it's sort of an open door to explore, to reflect, as Rose would say. Can you talk a little bit more about, how you dealt with the emotions and the fear?
I don't know. I didn't necessarily deal with that maybe properly till later in life, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I buried a lot of that. But I think, one of the things I think a lot about is that, our bodies are portals to the external world in a way.
I want to say that again. Our bodies are?
They're portals to the external world.
So important, Matt. That's the name of your next movie. This is important.
And so you've got your eyes, you have touch, you have hear, you have smell, you have food. Like, anything that comes in is going to impact you. And so when people say they're emotional, well, I'm like, well, you're emotional because what are you allowing in? Right? There's two things. You're making a choice of what you're allowing in, and you're responding to it. Now, there's certain things you can't control, especially in your childhood. Like there are a lot of things that happen, but in adulthood, you can be far more. You can curate those things far better. So whether it be reading the news, whether it be watching movies, Netflix, whatever, your eyes are bringing in content, ideas, ways of thinking, how you walk down the street, how you talk to the person at Starbucks, like all those things are coming in.
Yes.
And affecting you emotionally, physically, spiritually. It's all happening.
That's it.
So if you know you're sensitive, which I think all beings are in a way, to different things, and to those extents we don't know, right? And where those, say, trigger points are for the individual are different, I think.
Yes.
But it's really about choice.
Yes.
And
Yes.
that's one of the key messages. Does that make sense?
Yeah, because what we talk about a lot on our page and with a lot of our listeners, and I'm in a group with a bunch of people doing the presence process, which is a book about Michael Brown. He wrote it. He had this horrible neurological disease. I mean, terrible pain. And he went searching for years to figure out what it was. And he learned a lot about himself. And he talks, his main thing is about responding, not reacting. And in that response and in that breath, you know, by breathing and being in the moment, which is hard to do, but it's like just the mindfulness. And that's what you're saying.
Mm-hmm.
Your disease puts you right in the middle of being mindful. It was like, you better be mindful now, boy, or forget it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's what, and so we understand that. I mean, in this sort of body mind world that I'm in, and then I brought you because I felt so connected to your mission. But what I want to ask you is something very interesting because, you know, I have a site about MS and chronic disease and chronic pain, but a lot of MS groups, they don't want to hear about it. And I don't want to go where I'm not wanted. I don't want to, you know, reach out to people who don't want what I receive. So I'm very careful. Now, I would love to hear more about, in your opinion, why are people so close to this? If they see, hey, here's an opportunity for me to get better. What's the issue there from your point of view?
Yeah, I mean, there's a number of things. You know, I mean, whether it be multiple sclerosis or just like general well-being, it's really hard to get people to understand that it's really on them. It's a great number of people who I've definitely crossed in my path in life think that someone else is going to help them and save them. And one of the things I talk about is help may not necessarily be on the way. And I think that when people wake up to that and they have to take full accountability and responsibility for their lives, then suddenly they're open to maybe learning more. They're open to questioning more. Right. But if you just allow people to tell you how things are going to go and that you're the expert, and, you know, which is fine in some cases, but in some it's not. And you need to drill into that, I think, as the individual. But once you know you're in the pole position or you're in the driver's seat, you got to make choice. And that's not an easy place to be for a lot of people. And they're not used to it. They weren't trained that way. Maybe they went to a school or they lived in a society where they were really spoon-fed and taken care of and handheld. And then suddenly something goes wrong and they don't have those skills to go, no, it's on me now. Right. Like I need to be the one making those decisions. And how you get people to think that way, I try on Facebook and things like that to really wake people up to like, hey, it's you. Right. Like you did it. Like the good and bad.
Right. And you know, I think the doctors, again, they do what they do well. And that was a great interview with that stem cell doctor on your movie, which, by the way, for anyone who wants to see the movie, it's on Amazon. There's many ways you can get it. You can just email me or Matt at mshope.com. So he was really honest, the doctor, and he was like, I do what I do, and it's not easy because they won't let me make this treatment more. He was just very honest. Not important what he said, but I go with every show, which we're not against doctors,
No.
They do what they do, and they're even going through their own stress. Can you imagine being a doctor? I'll tell you, I had to go to therapy when I became a chiropractor to practice saying no to a patient. I cannot help you, because I just never thought I could ever say that. It was like, how could I ever tell someone I can't help them? So I learned to say, look, if I can't help you, I'll find someone who can. But can you imagine the stress of doctors and how they have to just like, and you're in Canada, like Israel, we have social medicine.
Yeah, so do we. Yeah.
So, and I have compassion for doctors, but then on the other hand, why are people giving the doctors their power? Can you address that?
Well, I mean, that's a really challenging question. I mean, I think being a doctor is a very, very challenging role, especially in today's world where you've got the internet and suddenly, that's a very gray area. And a lot of people don't have those hard research skills to be able to discern what's good and bad. And suddenly they're coming into the doctor with, what they printed off. And that's getting very complicated for them as well. And there's also, financial issues in regards to, like, if you just think of just some of the basics, how much it costs to go to med school. Okay. Suddenly you're in debt. Well, here in Canada, I've heard that I know, say you get a $1 million line of credit when you graduate med school.
Right.
Well, suddenly there's financial pressures.
Right.
Right. And those are things that a lot of people don't think about. And there's also just, how can doctors keep up when they're working, so hard, especially in a social system, maybe where they're just back to back to back. How do you research? How do you find the time?
Right.
So then there's a bit of an adversarial thing that can happen between the patient and doctor. And I don't think that's a good thing.
Right.
At all. Like, I think once you're in that situation, you're in trouble. Right. So it's how do you create more of a team effort with your doctor to find the best
partner.
Yeah, which I've been really lucky. I mean, I've had doctors like that in my life who really listen to what I'm talking about and have a lot of. And I walk in, and I've had moments where I've walked in with a big stack, and they're open to talking to me about it.
Right. So don't you think that? So this is a good point. This is a message to the listeners. If I'm a more educated patient, then I can go into my doctor and say, let's partner. But if I go into my doctor and I say, help me, fix me, then I leave myself open. So I think it's, again, if I don't want to take full responsibility yet, I'm not ready, I'm scared, I don't know anything. If you go in and you attract, so my point is you attract a doctor that will partner with you.
Right.
So take a little responsibility, find someone who's had a good experience, positive experience, and partner with your doctor. That's the age of your children and my grandchildren. Can we pray for that? That's the future.
Mm-hmm.
So I think there's a question here, and I would love to address this. So I'm going to put it up here. This question from, here he goes. Gloria Heinrichs. Do you know Gloria Pelosi
No.
Heinrichs? Anyway, this is what became my epiphany. I had this message from several practitioners, MDs, and alternative complementary. Matthew's Living Proof movie, and message was a turning point for me. Perhaps it was the timing, a serendipitous. I love that word. Did I say it right? A serendipitous happening. I am 3 months into embracing diet and lifestyle changes and have felt much improvement in my health and well-being. Thank you for your witness and example. Choices made a difference. Woohoo!
Praise God. That's great.
Gloria, thank you so much. Thank you so much for coming on and saying that. And so here we go, and that's just diet. And we haven't even talked about getting into emotions, because that's will. And, when you see a change, you get really, really pumped. It's like anything.
Yeah, and I think one message I have, and it's, not to get too up there, is the diet. I am a believer that this entire experience we're having is a spiritual experience. And I don't think that, I think sometimes we separate things in the material world a bit too far, and we don't realize the importance. And I think that something like a diet, yes, we can break down the biology and go, okay, here's why this certain food does this. Here's the chemical reaction. Here's this.
Yes.
We can do that. And I think that's really worth doing.
Yes.
But on another level, this is about discipline. It's about teaching you how to eat, making those micro decisions every single meal, being that mindful of 3-4 times a day. You have to put your mind to work.
Absolutely.
And so then once you've been able, I believe, to master that, right? You can master your diet. You can master your urges, your cravings for chocolate cake. Like, you know what I mean? It's that basic. It's that.
Right.
And but once you've got control on that and you realize the truth of food and what that does to your body, right, suddenly you're able to take on more.
Right. And you know, and I know that when you put less sugar and everything turns to sugar, whether it's vegetables or fruit, your body craves less sugar. Now, I love sugar. We're not about no sugar. We're about balance. But there's so many alternatives now, whether it's natural sugars or whether it's coconut sugar, which, you know, there's alternatives. And it's a trade-off. You know, it's a trade-off. I mean, it was very sad in the movie when the author of the book, she admitted, she said, you know, I'm not eating so well, so I expected to not be doing so well. But I don't personally think it's all the food. She, you know, when you don't stay on your program, you become sad, you doubt, and then that's emotional. Remember when that happened in the movie, the author of the book? Mm-hmm. And I don't know if you want to talk about that for a moment, or just how you saw that. It's not like if you don't follow the diet, you're going to regress. Because what you just said, when you follow the diet, you're disciplined, you're mindful, you're focused. And we haven't even talked about the chemical reaction of food and eating well. It's like gas in your body. It's a car.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you know, I have pretty much the only hashtag I use is no cheat days. I mean, I'm that. I'm that disciplined, and I think it's really important to be vigilant on the diet choices you make. And I think what I've learned in this journey is very few people can do it. And you know, they talk themselves into a cheat day. Well, that's 15% of your life, so don't expect. If you have one day a week, is almost 15%. So if you expect to lay off the clutch for 15%, don't be surprised if you have 15% of your health goes down.
Okay, so, I hear you. So if you have a cheat day, what are you saying? It's going to build up and...
Well, I mean, it's you, once you know the truth of what a food will do to your body or what potentially could happen, it's up to you if you're going to follow the truth or not. So for me, it's that simple. And I think, well, you know, we've got the science up on my dad's website about what foods and why. I'm going to walk around because I got to grab a power cord. So I'm not turning you off. I'm just walking to go.
Go ahead. Yes, fine.
I don't want my computer to die.
Cameraman.
and then that's kind of, you know, I'm really on that. But I think I try to apply that discipline to everything in life. So not just food, that's spiritual disciplines, as well as exercise and things like that.
Right.
So it's again, a really holistic approach.
Right.
And I think why Judy's story is painful for me too, and everyone, I think, is because we see how hard it is. Right.
Yes.
And that's not an easy pill for a lot of people to swallow.
Right. Right.
Because a lot of people in the world do want to sell you it's okay to lay off now and then.
Okay, don't you think that if I'm emotionally grounded, if I'm exercising, if my spiritual place is balanced, my willow tree is, you know, moving right, that if I had, you know, some sugar in my coffee, are you saying it's like so black and white? Or are you talking to me about a little bit of gray?
I mean, I'm pretty black and white. So, okay. But again,
it's important to hear.
Yeah, but here are the results.
Yes.
So I'm like, if you want here I am. I'm 44. This is what I can do.
Right.
If you want that, this is how I did it.
Right.
If you want to go find another way, that's totally up to you.
Right.
But then that's not what I'm selling. Not that I'm selling anything.
Right.
So
Right.
it's just not the equation.
Right.
And so this is where, it's interesting because a lot of people, I get these, and sometimes I'm trying to be really kind about it. People write me about, you're not doing it right. You should be doing this.
Mm.
And I'm like, well, what am I not doing right? Like, if you don't like what you see,
right.
Like, I get it if I'm struggling or if I'm not, I'm like, okay, for sure. But when I'm living the way I am.
Well, let's call it this way. It's no right or wrong. This is what worked for Matt. Matt has trained his body, his physiology, his chemicals, his neurology, his fight or flight mechanism from his brain doesn't have to protect and think a lion is coming, because he knows if he eats the way he eats, he's calm. See that? It's what works for you. To me, it's not black or white. It's like this very small place of gray. Because Shulamit isn't here, but she was on our show and she did a very strict diet of organic things. And, but I think you're committed to what works for you. And so you're saying
based on scientific concept, based on on science. So it's a reverse engineer. So it's not me, then the result.
Right.
It's here's the science, here's the rationale.
Right.
Here's a human being who put this into practice.
Right.
Here is the result.
But if everybody's different and the body's a work of art, then how could it's not black and white? This is where I'm like, it's just, my mother ate macrobiotics for 6 months and had a full remission. Mm-hmm. And that's, no sugar, no dairy, no dairy. And somebody asked, and not even an occasional fish. And no meat. And that was a big thing with macrobiotics. So I'm saying, I think we can say your system has to be cleaned, has to be clear. You have to believe. I think it's about, look, I'm going to pull the Joker card and say, there's a biology of belief. You 100% believe in what you believe in. But if I introduce you to, so I think other people have said, but I've done this and I've healed. So then what do you say?
How do you mean?
In other words, let's put a hold on that. So this is from Enda Joseph. Love the movie, Matt. Well done. I have a question. I know an MS diagnosis and many diagnoses come with a lot of expectations. Do you have any tips around not constantly checking your body for symptoms or any changes? Good question, Enda.
Yeah, I don't know. That's a really good question. To be honest, I don't know if that ever ends. That's one of I don't know. Like, you wake up at night, you've been sleeping on your arm. Like, you're going to think, oh my gosh, that's not going to, I don't know if that ever changes in all honesty. I think, again, for me, I could see those being intrusive thoughts. I don't know if that's one thing I work on too through the meditation practice. That really helps me be able to control those thoughts. And when they come in, just being like, no, that's a normal thing for a human being at my age or whatever the case.
Right.
But yeah, that's about mind. I don't know what's the word I'm looking for, to be able to control those negative thoughts.
Yeah. It's what is the best way to control things?
How do you mean, like, with your mind?
The best way, what's the ultimate form of control?
I don't know.
Letting go.
Right.
And that's really, I think that's where you sort of surrender, but not surrender in the way you sort of surrender to, you don't fight. Because I think what I've studied a lot and what we talk about with chronic pain is about when the brain goes into fight or flight. I mean, and disease is an ultimate protection. The body is overdoing something because it's been given the wrong message.
Yeah, and I think that, I know where you're going with this. Like, it's kind of, in North America, it's down, Dr. Joe Dispenza really talks about this type of work.
Yeah, the law of attraction. Yeah.
And I'm quite interested in it, and I do like listening to him quite a bit.
Yeah.
But one thing I have kind of come to a conclusion is that this is part of the journey.
Right.
So I understand there's all these reasons, there's
Right.
all these things,
Right.
and then bang, you get sick.
Right.
And it's like, well, that's probably what had to happen for you. So now you can
Exactly.
start on a different path.
Exactly.
And that's what life is about. It's about challenges and then how you overcome them.
Yeah.
Why, I don't know yet, but
exactly. Like why God
that's,
chose you. I mean, that's the acceptance. And I mean, if there are people who have fibromyalgia, multiple sclerosis, or, you know, it's like, can they accept their body being sick and being well? Can they accept that this is a challenge and they're not a victim? I remember I took my mother, you know, when she was in a wheelchair to see Bernie Siegel. You ever heard of Dr. Bernie Siegel? He wrote a book called Love, Medicine, and Miracles. And he's big on helping people with cancer. And, you know, we were sitting in a big auditorium in the University of Pennsylvania. And, you know, she got up on her walker and she raised her hand and said, "Why did I get MS?" And he said, "You caused it." You know, and it was rough. It was a bit rough for her. And I felt this sort of pain of like, how's she going to get this? How's she going to understand that she's responsible? And it was rough because in her generation, she wasn't taught that. So I think bringing up Joe Dispenza, you know, we're talking about you have a disease. So you're either an architect or you're a victim.
Yeah.
You know, and at 19, you somehow got that.
Yeah, but that's really you're jumping to like very few people can kind of stay with you at that point. What I've learned.
Everyone of my listeners, this is my world.
Okay, because now you're jumping beyond like a materialist kind of understanding of the world, where you know the average person can, you know, it seems random to get Epstein-Barr, say.
Right.
It's random, these types of things,
right.
And it's like, wow, it's actually not random.
Right.
But the world presented to you as random, so it creates all these other things that you can go down that road of thinking, but your outcomes may not be that great. Right. Versus you accept, okay, this is now my new journey.
Right.
And in that journey, I have to suffer, and then in the suffering, I need to go find the truth. Right. And if I go find the truth, then I'm healed,
right.
Resurrected, for lack of a better term, in the truth.
Right.
And now I have to help others.
Well, Matt, when people have a disease, which doctors, I speak to a number of doctors that are integrated, doing integrative medicine here in Israel, and they said something I never heard before. This one woman said, "Disease is a cry from the soul." So I'm being dramatic because if people have a disease, they have choices, and that's what your movie is saying.
I completely agree, and it goes just beyond disease. And I know some of the message I tell people, like you chose this whole thing. I mean, a lot of people may think I'm insane when I say that, but I believe that.
Right. And
therefore, once you wake up to that reality, then you have to start making better choices.
Right.
So that's where I think you need to seek people who have really good outcomes.
Okay, so let's say, okay, I chose it. I got this disease. What's the difference? How you got it? Let's be on a road to heal it. Like it becomes their drama. And sometimes Rose and I talk about secondary benefits. Like after you get the disease, like what's the drama? Why let it move in? Like you have a life to live. Take your anger and channel it.
Yeah, and I think that's where I think words at the beginning of a diagnosis can be really important. That people have to think about what they're hearing and also what they're speaking.
Right.
And I think that's really, really important. And I think sometimes if we have let's say a situation where you're told there's no it's just a progressive disease, you're going downhill, that's not good, because suddenly you've programmed yourself to think that way, and then all of a sudden you're fighting a battle. Right. And I think that's where we look at things and we say, look, no, like, you need to say a diagnosis. What I try to tell people is, I say, look, you tried your absolute best up to this point. You really did.
Right.
But it didn't work, because here you are.
Right.
And some of those things were up to you, and some of those things may not have been.
Right.
I can't decide, and I don't understand how that works.
Right.
But here you are today. You got to change. Right. So from this point forward, you need to go back into your life, see all the things you did, realize some were good, some were bad. Start eliminating the bad, burn off the dead wood, right, as fast as you can.
Right. And
start now. Like, go home, change your fridge, start working out, right? Like, if you're watching this, like, press pause, go to the gym right now.
Or
if you've got time to watch this, you have time to work out.
And you know what? I have a course called Turning Your Kitchen into a Gym. I've worked with people in wheelchairs. You can move your arm. I can move your leg for you. It's still moving the muscle. Now, Mia says, what if your symptoms started already at a baby or early childhood? I mean, you just answered that, but maybe you can address that.
Yeah, I mean, again, I don't know. And I hope people don't think that you chose your disease. I'm not saying that. I don't want to, like, does that, you know what I mean? I don't want to make people think that it's, I don't know. I want to be very sensitive to that and not think that, because I understand there's a number of variables. You didn't necessarily choose your genes, I don't think, like genetic aspects of that. And there's a lot you didn't choose, like cognitively.
Yes.
And so I get that. And I think that in these situations where, I mean, childhood MS is really scary, right? And I think that that's about, all these types of things we've got to get after as quick as we possibly can. And that's where, my message is about research. And, I'm critical of the MS Society of Canada for not putting enough money into research. We need to think for prevention, not high dose, but, appropriate levels of vitamin D for kids is really important, especially mothers who are pregnant, like all these types of things.
Right.
To get after.
It's really important. I know it's like, we're not shutting people up, but you cannot choose, what's happening to you, but you can absolutely 100% choose how you respond to it. Mm-hmm. The God-given choice. This is your birthright. You have choices. I mean, I'm always posting people in Special Olympics. I mean, this is amazing. People who are playing drums with their toes. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's a will. It's a drive. And everyone has it. And knowing the human body, as I studied it, the body can heal over and over and over again. I mean, the body is amazing. A sperm and an egg come together and make up a human being. It's unheard of. So maybe what we're talking about is finite things, and there's an infinite. So I am going to talk about, a Joe Dispenza or a Deepak Chopra. I mean, we are energy. We are physical energy and emotional energy and spiritual energy. And Rose will always say, we're made for love. We're made for connection. We're relationship beings. Mm-hmm. So, and everyone knows that. Even the criminals in jail, they're rehabbing, and they know that they didn't do anything. They did what they could. I'm just talking about human nature. Mm-hmm. All right, Rose, here you are. Hi.
Hi. Sorry for my late arrival.
No, we're so happy to see you. All your fans are here, Rose. We're having a really deep conversation, but maybe you can help us lighten it up a bit. Talk to Matt about your experience with the movie, Rose, and maybe you have a question for him now that you've joined. I'm so happy that you're here.
Well, I just congratulated him. What an amazing movie. What a fantastic job you've done. And how are you getting it distributed? Because that's intrigued me. So I had to join Amazon to watch it. And now I think I'm stuck with Amazon. So
yeah, I mean, we were very, again, we were really fortunate when we had the world premiere at TIFF, and one of our biggest
what is TIFF?
TIFF is the Toronto International Film Festival.
Okay.
So it's like a con. It's at that level. We were really, when that we got it, it was amazing that it happened. And then Amazon Prime gave us the offer to have it distributed all over the world, and that was,
wow,
for us, that was so huge because number one, you can get a free membership, I think, for a month. So everybody, I think, can get it for free.
Yeah.
Which was key. But it also put us on a platform that was respected, a platform that was credible.
Yeah.
And then now that's been almost 2 years now, I think. And I don't know where the licensing deal is going to go after that, but ultimately it's free, and that was so important for us.
Fantastic. And what's been the distribution of it in those 2 years?
Oh, I don't know.
No,
I'm so behind on messages. It's not even funny. Like it's actually sad, but I don't know what to do. It's I get messages every day from all over the world.
Fantastic. Wow. No, it's just that MS patients need to hear it and see it, and see that there's hope. You've probably discussed it already, but I'm very interested in the surgery with the. Is that difficult for patients to get?
For the vein.
Yeah, it really is. And the one issue we've got right now is the mainstream media has really presented it as something that has no value whatsoever. And I think that the problem is that the treatment to keep those veins open is ineffective in many, many cases. How we keep the vein open, right? And I think that because of that, it's, when we talk about in the movie, like, let's not throw the baby out with the bathwater. So if there still is an association between MS patients and blood flow issues, then let's figure that out. We may not be there today, but we may be there in the future. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I found the magical thinking thing from the New York Times, so I put that up, the doctor's magical thinking. I thought that's so appropriate. Because even with patients with back pain, they're given a diagnosis that's sort of totally irrelevant to where they're experiencing their pain. And I'm guessing that magical thinking is happening, especially with MS, because when a patient is diagnosed with it, the doctor's got nothing to offer them, have they? So they're going to be skeptical about anything that's going to come up.
Yeah, and I think that's not only exclusive to multiple sclerosis.
Right.
That's right. Exactly.
The medical ecosystems of different diseases, it's a very similar. You'll find very similar problems. And I think my perspective is, if you watch the movie, that was, we shot that 4 years ago, and I was pretty aggressive during that stage of my life, and we're really kind of going up against the system. I've taken a different approach right now, where I'm really I just came off another film I directed on the opioid crisis, and I just did another one on concussions, and it's almost identical problem. And so when you start to see these patterns, you can either rail against the system or accept that this is part of the journey for almost all people who encounter illness.
Right, it's true.
Could I just Ed John Pano has just mentioned about his diagnosis and continue the drug. Would you, Matt, be able to explain to people, I'm not that good at explaining it, how the drugs get certified by the FDA?
Again, I wouldn't know that process.
Okay, well, the thing is that, say there's 100 patients and 3 patients recover or have better outcomes, the drug will be okayed, although 97 of them had no benefit from the drug, but 3 did. So because of that, the drug will get certified as okay. But I don't know the actual numbers, but I thought you might have known more about it because of your research.
No, I don't know that, but I can tell you that we did have a second, whistleblower come forward after the film came out. And it was another, I believe, relatively high-profile neurologist who, got a hold of me. And so that would be, if we include them in the sequel, which we're working on, that we'd get more into, okay, the drug trials, how they work, maybe drug approvals, things like that. But again, we only had so much time in the first film.
Right.
Yeah. And you have so much film, and you've got to decide what you're going to put up there, don't you?
Yeah, exactly.
I want to address John's question, but I want to say let's have a good twist to this issue that will be with us for a long time about the medications. So, okay, there's a relationship between doctors and pharmaceutical companies. There's a relationship between pharmaceutical companies and the world, and people are getting better. How can people come to terms? And again, I have my answer. Let's see what you say. How do we come to terms with this relationship that's around us? Because healthcare is an issue we live with. What would you suggest from your experience? What advice would you give that's not extreme, that's balanced advice to people regarding the drug industry?
Yeah, I mean, I think again, some of this comes down to just very practical approaches for patients. And I think that, and something as simple as just learning about the drugs or the pharmaceutical options, really learn about them.
Yes.
Like read about what the drug is, go study, try to your best to study the drug independently, ask your doctor really important questions. And then again, I'm not a doctor, so I can't give medical advice, and I don't. But these are just approaches I think we can do, and listen to what your doctor has to say. And then one thing I think this should be fair for patients to say is ask your doctor what companies they're accepting money from. It can be that simple. And then you know if your healthcare is being sponsored and by who.
Right.
So at least you know if there's a conflict, and if there is a conflict,
you are so right.
Yeah. So we're all going to agree on education. I mean, I had in my office when I was in Philadelphia with my partner, we had a book that showed you the side effects of every drug sitting in the reception room. Wouldn't that be a wonderful thing to have in every reception room? The side effects of drugs?
Yeah, and I tell patients, look, I mean, it's up to you. So if you're okay with it, have at it. Go for it.
Could I just mention on behalf of the patients with MS that they become cognitively disrupted and they're dependent on the doctor to give them the good advice. And what Matt is saying is so important. Ask them where they get their benefits from. They might get the benefits of having a conference in wherever, some beautiful place, not with COVID, but that's the bottom line. And then you can figure out how to deal with the problem. But there's a number of drugs that they use. And when you go to see the doctor, and I mean, as a nurse, I've stood beside the doctors as they say these things. Oh, this will make a difference. This will do this and that and the other. But as Matt pointed out in the movie, there was no way that they would give a definitive answer. And that's why I wanted to ask you about the FDA approval of drugs, because there's no definitive answer. And 3 patients get better. But those 3 patients could have had other issues going on or other things that made them get better. You know, maybe disposition, or they're already on the vitamin D, or, you know, all those other what would you call it?
Co-factors in variables, yeah.
Or they've gone on a vegan sort of diet, and they've become better in themselves, and then they've taken the drug as well, and then the FDA can approve it because 3 people got better, but the 97 didn't. So,
well, this feels like such a big issue. Telling Matt about the stress of doctors, and we're looking forward to having some doctors on the show to share about their stress being a doctor and dealing with patients. I mean, it'd be great if patients came in and said, "Doc, let's partner together. I'm going to help you out and, you know, get better on your dime." And, you know, this is the future, I hope. So before I go off on my tangent, let's just answer Ejon's question. I have 3 months diagnosed with MS. My doctor gave me interferon. After I watched the movie, I want to start the diet and exercise, but I don't know if I should continue using the drug or not in the same time. Well, I just what Rose said. I think you should use the drug and still go on the diet and still exercise and do all these things. That's what I would say. What would you say, Matt?
Yeah, again, I don't give medical advice, and I
Exactly.
certainly don't tell people to
Right.
take their drugs or not.
Right.
And that's totally an individual choice.
Yeah, I wouldn't give medical advice to anyone.
Right. But I would say that the drug will work better if you stay on the diet and you exercise and you pray. The drug will work better. Because I happen to be a big believer in the placebo effect.
I think the patient should look at the contraindications and the side effects of all drugs, whatever it is.
Of course.
Not so much doing the praying as well, which is nice.
Of course.
But patients need to be informed, fully informed.
Completely.
The doctor will only give you what he sees, what the drug, what do you call it, a rep has come around and told him about the drug.
Right.
Or he's gone to a conference which has been sponsored by the drug company.
Right.
And the drug company will only tell the doctor how wonderful the drug is.
Right.
I've seen it. I've seen patients in a nursing home once, and the doctor was slow in repeating the script for the patient that I was observing. And I noticed once he was off his medication, he was much clearer. He was able to interact with us. And I thought, what a blessing that the doctor's slack, because the patient's got a bit of cognitive skills back.
Rose, your nursing degree has taught you a lot. It must be hard being a nurse and seeing both sides. And now you're a therapist, and then you're a midwife. It must be hard for you, Rose, honestly, to have seen all those different sides of medicine.
Yeah. Well, Matt's movie just drew me to tears, and thank you so much, because when you're a provider of care and comfort and stuff for patients, and you can do nothing, there's no way of expressing your grief.
Right.
And your mother's a nurse as well. I mean, she would sort of, and even in the movie, she spoke to that, the fact that she's talking about her son, but I'm sure she was also talking about all the people that she'd seen that had there was no progress that she could offer them, or help that she could offer them. So thank you very much as well from me.
We're gonna have his father and mother on the show and talk to them about the parents of being the parents of Matt.
My mother actually passed away this year, but my dad, I think, he might be open to it.
Wow, really? Oh,
Yeah.
You're a beautiful woman, special woman, beautiful woman. So Kate, I want to address Kate's question. I did change my diet, exercise, and staying positive. My first representation was optic neuritis. I am taking DMT and hoping to go off it. Not sure it's doing anything for me. My vision improved prior to starting treatment. Was cautious because the DMT slowed down the progression, confusing. So I would just say to Kate to start the diet. I mean, isn't it all on your site, the diet? It's not like people are mentioning your cookbook. Do you have a cookbook, Matt?
Yeah, there's a free cookbook on there you can order, and we'll send it to you, or you can just download it right away. It's a free PDF. But there's also really basic PDFs just to get the basics.
Mm-hmm.
And people who want to do the deep dive can go to direct-ms.org for the science and here's why. But very few people will do that. But if those people who do want to do that, I highly recommend it, because then you know why you're not eating these foods.
Mm-hmm. Can I ask?
The more you know.
So meat is in your program, but a small amount of it. Mm-hmm. Protein is and dairy's out of it. Gluten's not in it. No dairy, no gluten, no sugar.
Very little.
Okay.
It's very similar to a paleo diet. I think now it's fashionable. I mean, back then it didn't necessarily exist, but
Right.
now it's become more fashionable, these types of, which is good. I mean, it's a lot easier
Right. Right. Exactly.
compared to 25 years ago.
Exactly.
Matt, have you been able to funnel or find a research lab or whatever that will look at what you've discovered to sort of bring it on a bit
Well,
further?
that's Dr. Terry Walls is doing research in her diet, and I think Dr. George Jelinek in Australia, he's done
That's the
some work.
gentleman, Rose.
Yeah,
that
I
we
wrote,
talked about.
I wrote to him to see if he would come on, but he hasn't responded to me.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
Yeah, he's a great guy, and I mean, there's some minor differences to the diets, right? And again, I think that is a little bit of an issue to how to get, because it'd be great if we could all kind of get to the similar path, but they're very, very similar.
Yeah.
I think dairy is the one that's consistent in all of them, like elimination of dairy.
Mm.
And then again, for me, it's so much about, it's so much of why I created MS Hope was I tried to picture me at 19, what I would want to see if the day after I was diagnosed, what would I want to see? And if I could log in and see that website with all that information and then go check all these other testimonials, and here's someone who's been 25 years out living this way, and here's all these other people who've done it too. That's the goal, and continues to be the goal. Yeah. And so for me, I really try to push people, say, well, if you don't want to believe me, that's okay, but here's some other people you may want to consult. And these people also have MS, and these people are also doing fantastic, and they're also 20 plus years out.
Yeah.
So Matt, what's the second movie about? Because I just had a vision. What do you think? What do you think of the vision of pharmaceutical companies shifting to dealing with real food and making vitamins that are real food, or somehow if we could rearrange the
there's no money in it.
No, it's like, how can we create peace, love, and Woodstock in this?
Yeah, I mean, again, I don't. Not to jump to too high level or high, I don't think that's how this life works.
No, it doesn't.
I think
that's
that
magical thinking.
I really studied the opioid issue quite deeply for a couple. I continue to today, and it's a similar issue where the money exists, the man or woman person power exists. But the allocation of these things is not necessarily working. And because of that, it almost seems like for the individual, it's like a maze. So once you are the one who's ill and you need to recover, now it's on you to find your way through. And it's too similar, these other ecosystems I've studied, for this not to be some sort of, for lack of a better word, almost game. For the individual to overcome. And so I think that, we could speculate. I mean, what if we were able to move that money to chefs in every MS patient's home instead of a doctor? That makes sense.
That makes sense.
Right.
That one.
And like how that doesn't happen. But then again, these medical systems are like, I compare them to Russian dolls. Right? Yeah. Because once you open up one, you're like, oh, that's how the pharmaceutical industry pays doctors and uses conferences to say one thing you discover. And then you go, oh, well, here's how the pharmaceutical industry gets their money from the government. And then, oh, here's how the government gets their. And as you keep going down, the more you start sounding a little bit crazy, maybe to some people. But you realize it's highly complicated. It's far more complex.
But then you have an open window, like the placebo effect, which is scientific. Mm-hmm. So this is where I get this is where I get my hope, and this is where I get my drive. Okay? And so there's a small window, and look, the future could be a row of regular food and the rest of the supermarket be whole foods. I mean, that could be the future, that all those foods were available to everybody, not just the people that can afford it.
Right, but you make an interesting point, because that happened to me, right? Like, that happened to me. So when I was 19, these things didn't exist. There was like these small fringe health food stores, but then in my reality, over time, they started to appear. Does that make sense?
Yes, sure.
Yeah, well, they have. Yeah.
Yes, they have. So my perspective is, we just keep going. So for the individual, the more we share this information and hope and everything, we don't know where it lands.
Supply and demand. It will be more.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And we can grow our own things. We can grow our own food.
Sure, and that's where that's where I think things may go. But now we're getting into some sort of strange automated world, which I think we're getting into, and like, say, quantum computers and things like that, which I find fascinating. But
right.
I think the future is really, really good. But the reality is, we need to. It's not going to be good if you don't start right now.
Right.
So whoever watching this, if you don't start eating properly and exercising right now and thinking properly and getting to work, don't think the future is going to get better for you, because it's not.
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
AC Bilodeau.
Yeah, he said something very interesting. Do you know this gentleman?
Nope.
Okay. Dr. Walls hasn't cured her MS. She manages it. When she strays from her diet, her symptoms returns. It's too bad she's not looking into emotional evacuation work.
Excavation.
I never heard of that either.
Of course, that's what we look into all the time with our patients, Toba.
Yeah, I think that's what
we look at what's going on at the same time,
right?
Emotionally with people,
right?
What their relationships are,
right?
Yeah, I mean, one thing I'd want to weigh in on that comment is, I think the word cure it's a word I do not use, and I think it can be a dangerous word.
I agree.
Yeah.
And here's why. And I've told people, look, if there was an MS cure tomorrow, okay, if I could get an injection and I was cured of MS, there's still a ton of other diseases I could get if I went off the wagon. So just because I've stopped MS doesn't mean I can't fight obesity. It doesn't mean I can't fight diabetes. Like, your body's always in a potential disease state. If you trigger it, and who knows what those environmental factors or mental factors or factors are going to be, it's not a home free save the bunch situation right now. So I think the concept I try to get people to think about is, okay, am I in optimal health physically, mentally, and spiritually right now? Like, right now. And if I'm not right now, then go do something. Go do something. And here's a list of things you can do. And probably sitting around watching Netflix and eating junk food is not one of them, right? But how do we get people to wake up to these things and break out?
Yeah.
Well, and that way, thank God for Facebook, because we have a vehicle, and we have a venue to educate. And I feel really blessed that we stumbled upon you. And if there's no more questions out there, I think we'll start to wrap things up. I know that it's the middle of the day for Matt, and you've got a movie to make, but keep us in touch with the sequel. Don't be, like, in any way possible. And if we can help, it's your mission's our mission. I think what I want to leave our listeners with is that we're all very human. We're having a human experience, and we're not here to judge anyone. We're just regular people, just trying to give love and receive love. Like, I said, what Rose says is we're made for love. And I also say we're relationship beings. So it's really about the relationship with yourself and your health. And that will take you a long way. So we love all of you to return each week. This is our 31st show. Matt will have this on a tape. We have a YouTube, and we'll send it out to you. We want to thank your family for letting us have you for an hour and 15 minutes. We're thrilled to have Rose show up in the ninth inning. Rose, you want to say a few things before we wrap up?
Do I?
Yeah.
What will I say?
I don't know. I love when you talk. And then I listen.
Yeah. I would like to say that it's morning here in Melbourne, and I'll be on and off the computer. So if there's anyone out there that has questions or wants to know anything or whatever, I'm available.
Mhm.
And you can either put a question on Facebook or on Messenger.
Yeah.
And I'll be here most of the morning.
Beautiful.
And Matt, thank you again. It's just been amazing listening to your story. Could I just briefly ask you, when you had the legal problems, did you succumb to them or not? I was a bit confused. Did you?
Yeah, we just changed the logo. We just changed the color.
Okay.
So we changed the logo
and you made it. But you know what? When I looked at your MS Hope and saw the MS Society, I saw broken neurons on MS Society, and then on MS Hope, I saw that MS is full and solid and strong. I just wanted to share that with you.
Oh, thank you. I like that observation.
And so if anybody wants to contact you, it could be through the Facebook page or...
Yeah, I mean, I actually have my personal phone number on there too, like on MS Hope. So it's like if people need to get a hold of me, that's
lovely.
It's open access.
Talk about humility. Well, you let us know when you need a secretary. We'll find someone for you.
Okay.
In the meantime, again, it's thrilling to have you on, and we may have your father on. Would that be? Do you think he'd be?
Oh yeah, I can talk to him. I'll see him sometime.
Oh wow, wonderful! And so, see you all next week out there in Facebook land. Rose, I'm so happy you got your internet working, and we're very excited to end the show on a good note and not have been a slave to the internet gods in the end, because we are an architect of this. And good night, good morning, good afternoon. Thanks again, Matt, Rose. I love you dearly. See you soon. Okay. Have a wonderful night. Thank you so much to the listeners. So thrilled that you came on and shared. They were having a whole conversation, Matt, by the way.
Okay.
On the side. We'll send you the feed.
Okay, well, thank you so much.
Really wonderful. You're wonderful.
Okay.
Good night.
Okay, bye, Matt. Bye,
Okay,
Tova.
bye.
See you next week, Tova.